So this is a 1940 Studebaker Champion, and I just rescued this the other day, and it's been sitting for an awful long time, as you can probably tell. The Champion actually started in 1939. I'm actually new to the whole Studebaker thing, so I'm not going to do a whole history lesson. But they started in 1939 because the company was sinking, and they brought in this model to basically bring back Studebaker. It was the value model of all of them. This one in particular is a Studebaker Champion Deluxe, though, so this has a lot of features on it that the other ones, some of the other ones do not. And this one has, for example, 2 taillights, which we'll look at in a minute. This one has 2 wipers, which we'll look at in a minute. The really stripped down models didn't have any of that. Also, they had more basic interiors, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. But this is just kind of an introductory to the Champion that I rescued. I love rescuing cars. It's kind of my thing, and especially kind of strange cars. And they may not be worth $1 million, but they're kind of fun, and also not well known. And so I really enjoy doing that. So this is going to be the next project for the next couple years that I'll be working on, and so it should be a lot of fun. So this is a 1940 Studebaker Champion, as I mentioned, and I rescued it the other day. It came from Oregon, and I'm actually going to be cleaning it all up. But it came from Oregon, and then it was stored actually about 10 minutes from my house. And anyway, I got it for nothing. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go ahead and pick it up. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at it. It's very solid. And the interior is original still. And I'm actually going to get a seat cover. I'm going to clean all this out, actually, and probably do another video on it. But the interior is all original. This one's a more deluxe model because it has the wood grain on the dash. And it has all of the door panels still intact, which is pretty cool. These are from 1940. Well, 1939. The car was built in 39. So these are pretty cool. This is all original here. And of course, these all have, from the era, the infamous suicide doors, as cars did back then. And you can tell this is the deluxe trim because it has the chrome surrounds on it. And then here's the back seat. The back seat's actually not too bad. The fabric's in good shape, except for where little creatures bit into it over there. But I'm going to be vacuuming this all out and scrubbing this all out and taking a shampooer to it and see what I can do to it. And just getting it all cleaned out. And I'll probably put a towel over the seat or something, but for now, because first priority is to do, of course, the mechanicals, which we'll get into that in a minute. But what's pretty cool is the doors open out like this, and actually in some ways it's easier to get in and out of it too, because the door opens back. But they call them suicide doors because you wouldn't see the traffic coming. But this is what I like about this is it's a 4-door, and it's awfully light too, which is pretty good. I was able to actually push it into position, even though it has the wrong tires on it, and a couple of them are close to flat. So what caught my eyes, there's a bunch of these stickers on the car. So this car was in regular service for quite a long time, and I'm going to see when those are from, but that looks about 1960s, 70s. So this car was still tooling around at that point, which is pretty cool. This fender here is dented. I'm going to see about getting a replacement eventually, so then when it gets painted, I'll just have the fender popped out and replaced. It's been repainted several times clearly, but just looking at it, there's some surface rust up on the roof. This kind of rust just gets sanded down, and like this dent can be pounded out, so that's pretty easy stuff. This rust can be cleared. It's just surface rust on top. There's actually no cancerous rust. I was looking all around the car, and for a car this vintage, having no cancerous rust is pretty insane. I was like, wow, this is incredible. Interesting fact, there's no running boards. Obviously, being this being a budget model, they didn't put them on there, so it's just pretty interesting. So moving forward, someone started a restoration on this car, and as evidenced by the wheels, someone took the wheels off and had them painted. I'm actually going to get some new tires and beauty rings and some hubcaps, little dog dish hubcaps, and put those on the car. It actually will look about a million times better once that's done. I always think the tires and wheels actually make a car, even with a car with a lot of paint issues such as this one. We'll move ahead forward here to the front of the car, and this has bumper guards on it. I'm missing one on this side, so hopefully I'll be able to get a hold of it. The grill is all there, which is great, and the headlight assembly, so we'll just get those going again and replace the bulbs. The hood is sitting a little far forward. I'm going to figure out what's wrong with this thing and fix it. I should be able to maybe bend it back. Lots of Art Deco influence in this car, because of course that's the era. Let me go ahead and hold this camera with my other hand. This car, unlike a lot of cars during the era, had, sorry if there's not much video there. I'll just hold the hood up for now. This car, unlike a lot of cars of the era, has one hood. A lot of them had dual hoods, and this one only has one. So basically a cost-cutting measure. The radiator is missing. However, it's in the trunk, and the person who had it actually had the radiator record. Crazy enough. The engine's actually been out of the car, it appears, because someone has painted the back, and the paint goes all the way down behind the engine, and there's no paint on the engine. And you won't be able to get any sort of paint implement in there, and it's not painted with a brush. So this engine's been out of this car, and I think actually this engine's been out of this car and repaired. But we'll see what ends up happening once I get it going. The engine is a straight six, which was in Studebakers for years and years and years. Long time. And a little carburetor, and of course air cleaner, oil bath air cleaner, which I need to get a top for. Probably will do some new wiring just to be safe. The wiring actually looks pretty decent, and it's been replaced. It doesn't have the original cloth covered wiring, but I think out of caution, I think I'll just get the wiring harness and rewire it. These old cars are not very complicated as long as you have the wiring diagram, and especially one that doesn't have much power. But these side fender pieces I actually have on the side of the car, which we'll see in a minute. And the pieces actually go right here on top of the fender I have over in a pile right now, which will go back in the trunk tomorrow after I paint everything. Clean everything, excuse me. But as you can see, these are very basic cars, which is pretty awesome. Easy to work on. Real easy to work on. So we'll go ahead and put the hood down. But yeah, as you can see here, someone painted all this here. Yeah, it's interesting. Someone obviously started on this and stopped on it, or whatever. I don't know, but anyway, every fender is really solid. This is just surface rust on here, which can be taken out. Every single fender, everything on this car is real solid. The only body panels that are missing are here, which were in the trunk, and it has these mirrors. It has this trim is just loose off here, but everything on the body is actually in very good condition, surprisingly. And so we'll take a look around here. National Automobile Club, member over 10 years. That looks like a little tag from the 40s. And then we have this one that looks like it's probably from the 60s or so. But if we look around here, car's pretty straight. There's a dent there in the front fender. But what can you do? Let's take a look in the driver's side. This is an awesome steering wheel. I just love this steering wheel. Reminds me of the 30s Fords, which is pretty cool. The speedometer is actually in perfect condition. I have a Dodge from this era, and the speedometer completely fell apart. The dash is in good shape. I'm actually going to clean it up a lot. The wood grain is actually still visible on the side and on the front of it too. So I'm going to be very careful and clean it. And of course I'm going to vacuum all this out. And I have a seat cover coming. So then that way I can sit inside of it and work on it without getting all this seat stuff all over me. All the handles are here, the plastic trim, Bakelite trim is here. It's pretty extraordinary that all of this is still in one shape. We're in 2021. This car is a 1940, probably made in 39. And it's pretty extraordinary that this car is still solid, still has all the pieces here and everything. And then the doors just close so nicely and everything lines up real nice. And then here we have the back seat and of course the roof there. Headliner's long gone, of course, sadly, or maybe not. There's one light in the back. The rear window is open, which is cool that you can roll them down, and then there's a rear wind wing. And then this will all be, I'm going to clean all this out too. But actually it's in pretty good shape. There's an ashtray back here with a cool Bakelite handle and a strap there that you can grab onto if you need to. And it's pretty spacious for a little car, actually. That's pretty good leg room right there. So I don't know the positioning of the seat yet because I haven't actually sat in it yet. I'm going to wait till I vacuum it out. But that's pretty good space. Like, I'm 6'3". I could probably cross my legs and sit on the back seat. We'll probably add some seat belts to it as well, at least some lap belts. And not that this car goes very fast. Maximum speed I think is 80, and you wouldn't want to ever push a car like this to 80. And around back here, interesting, the grommet here is actually missing. That goes around that goes around the filler neck. So I'm actually going to look underneath it tomorrow and see if maybe the gas tank has actually already been redone. That would be something. I didn't actually hear any sort of gasoline in it when I was moving it. So a lot of times, no, there's no gas in it. A lot of times in these old cars, people just leave gas in it. And of course the tires are completely the wrong size. These should be, I think, 16s on this car, 16-inch tires. So, and that's why it's sitting weird, like it's lower back here and it's higher up there, and of course this tire is like low, so it's weird. That's probably one of the priorities I have, is just slap some new tires on it. I may do white walls, I haven't decided, or at least vintage looking black wall tires. Actually, that's what this car should have because it was a bargain car, though this one's a more deluxe model. And then here is the back with the historical plate from Oregon. We have bumper guards here, and then we have bumper here, nylon. No fancy stuff here, nothing. There's no filler here, nothing. There's no filler in the front. Some of the cars from this era had that. Basically, this is like a car, even though it was from 1940, it's basically a car that could have come out 4, 5, 6 years before, and which is pretty cool. So let's take a look inside the trunk. And here we go inside the trunk. The battery cables are actually still there, which is pretty cool. The starter, which may or may not be the starter for this car, I'm not sure. Oh, there goes a piece of weather stripping. The only rust that's on it is this lip right here on the trunk, which is pretty cool. Below that lip is fully solid. It's just that lip right there is the only cancerous rust that's on the whole car. And that can be fixed. The trunk is pretty good size too. And I'm going to be vacuuming and cleaning this out, hopefully tomorrow. And then here is the trunk. The inside of the trunk looks pretty good. And all the handles work, which is impressive. I have the keys for it that lock the door and turn the ignition and lock the trunk, which is pretty cool. A lot of old cars from this era, you don't have the keys with them anymore when you buy them. That in itself can be a pain. With locks that don't work and all sorts of stuff. So real pain. What's nice is the rear glass is flat glass, so I can get this replaced fairly easy. just order a new piece and then have the weather stripping and just pop that out, pop the new one in. Same thing with the side glass. I've actually replaced glass in the doors before on these old cars. It's pretty easy. And so it's a pretty cool car. It's a 1940 Studebaker Champion. It was the bargain basement model, except this one is the fancier model because it has all the embellishments on it and additional pieces. The fact it has 2 wiper blades, the fact it has 2 stoplights on the back, the fact it has the upgraded interior. So someone would have paid a little more for this car. But if you look at the car, it comes really out of like about 1935. A lot of the design cues on it, all that kind of thing. Even though it was new for 39, a lot of the stuff on here is reminiscent of earlier cars from the mid-30s. It's really crazy, and I'll make this a subject in another video eventually, how technology on cars progressed over the decades. 15 years before this car came out, people were driving around in Model Ts, which were not enclosed, you know, didn't have, had huge tires on them, no juice brakes. They were brakes like bicycles. It's pretty insane when you think about it, and those cars could only go maybe 30 or 40 miles an hour with no modification. And then you have cars like this that were coming out in the mid to late 30s. I've always credited with the Chrysler Airflow actually to really change the direction of cars, even though it was a failure financially for Chrysler. But then you have cars like this that come out in 1939, 1940, which is, you know, really changing the direction of cars. And all throughout the 40s, and of course post-war cars would take off. By the 1950s, mid-50s, you had cars that were going 100 miles an hour, and V8s, and more modern V8s. And of course by the 1960s you had your muscle cars and all of that. Of course you always had fast cars, but when I look at these cars, it's kind of interesting to see the progression of the technology from one generation to the next, and very quickly. And perhaps the subject of another video will be where have cars actually transpired in the last 30 years? Really, when you look at cars, there's not much difference from a car 30 years ago compared to today. But yet a car like this, 30 years previous to this, people were driving around in not even they were driving around in Model Ts. And a completely different car. So, but that'll be a subject of another time. But this is a Studebaker Champion 1940, and the value Studebaker of the lineup. So we look forward to getting started on this. I'll be doing some more videos along the way, showing some things that we're doing to it, and to get it on the road again. So with that, we'll see you next time.